What's up guys, today we'll be reviewing every aerial Supercross track and giving them a rating between S and F. Keep in mind, all these tracks are incredible, but I'll be comparing and rating them against each other, so even the worst track is still amazing. So let's just jump right into it. For round one, we have Anaheim 1, of course. First of all, Stone Rider did an amazing job on all of these stadiums throughout the series, but I especially like Anaheim as it is a unique looking stadium. This track is really technical with some big boy whoops that present a challenge for most players, and the track has this like really odd kind of U-turn thing in the middle of the track, but it's actually really cool. Overall, I think this is a really solid track, and I think a good baseline to base the rest of the tracks off in the series, so I'll give this one a solid C. For round two, we have Oakland, the track I grew up watching all of our favorite riders win races. No, not those guys, these guys. The Oakland track offers a really good flow and has a much smaller set of whoops, so new players would appreciate that. The rhythms just feel good, like they just make sense, if that makes sense. It's like senseception. Anyway, I prefer this track over A1, so I'll give Oakland a solid A. For round three, we have sunny San Diego. This is by far the fastest Supercross track that is a traditional style Supercross track, not a non-traditional like Atlanta or Daytona. Since the track is so fast, I think this is one of the most fun tracks Stone Rider has created. It offers a ton of big lines for the goosers of the group, while still being easy enough for those of us a little more challenged at the game. Definitely a top tier track in my opinion, so I'll drop an S for San Diego. For round four, we go back to A2, back to the Anaheim Stadium because we can't seem to get any other stadiums to accept Supercross, I guess. A2 is probably the easiest rhythm sections of any track so far, with the exception of the one before the second Supercross triple. That one's a little tough. There's a huge big boy whip section that will certainly whoop your butt over and over and over again. They aren't really overly large, but it is just a super long whip section, and it's really hard to keep a drive through them. Oddly enough, this is one of the only Supercross tracks where I felt like I was actually consistently over jumping rhythms and Supercross triples on a regular basis. Maybe I'm just built different. I doubt it though, so I'll give this one a B. Round five, we have Glendale. This is our first Triple Crown track on the series. Because it's a Triple Crown track, I expected it to be a little bit more mellow, but Stone Rider said screw your feelings, and we're going hard on this one. The rhythms on this track definitely take some precision to hit consistently, and maybe it's because I'm old, but the dirt throws me off, man. Like, it could be the brain damage, but like my eyes. Anyway, also I'd like to specifically note how sick the stadium is. Stone Rider really killed it on this one. Glendale gets a B from your boy. Round six, we're back at A3. Wow, we've had a bunch of solid tracks so far, so surely this one should be good, right? Wrong. Yet again, we enter the most overused dirt and stadium in Supercross history, Anaheim. Not only are we returning to the same stadium, this track layout is just strange. The flow just kind of feels off. The spacing of the jumps definitely feels different. Like, all the transitions of the jumps are just closer together, and it just feels weird. This track really just doesn't do it for me. I'm sorry, Stone Rider, I love you, but I have to give this one a D. For round seven, we go to the East Coast for the first time at Minneapolis, which is extremely hard to spell and say. This is also the first time Stone Rider started to put some ruts and erosion on the track by default, and let me tell you, it worked. I think this default track breakdown gives a much better skill gap and a higher skill ceiling to the tracks, and makes the tracks just feel more realistic and immersive. I love it. This track is actually pretty hard though, so it may hold it back for a lot of riders. Compared to round six, everything feels huge because of the challenge and the fact that I'm trash with this game. I'll go ahead and give Minneapolis a solid C. Round 8, we head over to Texas and the Arlington track. Stone Rider takes the default track breakdown even farther and makes it more intense. I love this, but for some reason this track is just like lackluster for me. It's not the erosion. I love that. It feels extremely one line without really many options for passing or different rhythms. I'm sorry, but it's another D for Arlington. Yo, before we go into the second half of these tracks, I wanted to let you know that most of you watching this aren't subscribed, and you should be. Look at all this juicy content I have for you to binge. Also, I care about you, and I want to be your friend. I want to pray for you, talk with you, whatever you need. So smash that subby wubby button, join the Discord, follow on Twitter, and let's get right back in the video. At round 9, we have our first non-traditional track, none other than Daytona. Now listen, this track slaps. It's Daytona, so what do you expect? The default of the road is awesome. The stadium is literally incredible. Stone Rider like outdid himself on this one. The track just flows extremely well. It's challenging, but it's also easy enough for new players to get on and not hate their lives. The dirt color changes are really cool. I know that's just like a realistic thing for how the track is real life, but it's really cool to see. Daytona is an S tier for me. Round 10, we head to Detroit, where the only thing harder than the people that live in the city are the whoops on this track. I could not get through them to save my freaking life. This is the most default erosion and ruts we've seen in any track so far, and gosh, it feels so different than the first 6 tracks of this series. It almost feels like an entirely different creator made these tracks versus the first 6. I love the erosion, but the Detroit track was a bit lackluster. Not bad, but nothing special, in my opinion, so we're gonna drop a C. Round 11, we head over to Indy. I'm not trying to say the actual thing because my brain damage. And good lord, the ruts on this track are insane. I mean, look at this. It's so gnarly. A lot of my friend group often bash this track for not being that fun, but I have to say, I really enjoy riding it. I found myself just kind of grinding lap after lap after lap. I had to force myself to get off when I was making this video. The rhythms can feel a little bit one-lined here and there. There aren't a ton of options, but it has such a good flow, I have to go ahead and give it a B. Round 12, Seattle. Seattle is hands down my favorite track on this list. The erosion on the track is perfect. The ruts are perfect. It has really big lines that are hard and technical, but also offers fast lines that are obtainable for like your intermediate, even some beginner riders. It has the best flow of any track on the circuit, in my opinion. The stadium's sick, the dirt color's sick, you get it. The track's sick. Go download it right now. I'll give this one a big boy S. Round 13, we have St. Louis, which a lot of people would say is the most difficult track in the series. The first rhythm section will have you crying over and over and over again because I promise you will not be able to triple in cleanly unless you're goated on the stick. The Supercross triple requires like almost perfection to get over. The freaking 180 after the sand is more chopped up and rutted out than a pro national. Mix that with the wonderful Poboso physics and you're just sad. You're just a sad man. You're gonna be sad when you ride this track, unless your name's Ryder or Lind. Trust. Maybe the track isn't that bad and maybe it's me, but I'll give it the benefit of the doubt and I'll drop a C for St. Louis. Round 14, we have Atlanta. Now, let me tell you, I was really excited for this track, especially after Daytona. I love the bigger SX tracks. I was expecting this one to be an absolute banger. Unfortunately, this track is like so easy, it kind of takes the fun out of it. All the rhythms are predetermined, and you can't really be creative and bust out different rhythms than anyone else. The only place you can really do that is in the really big rhythm before you go under the over-under bridge. You can quad in, but it's honestly just as fast and way easier to just triple on the table. This is a great track for newer riders, as I've already mentioned in my best beginner track video, but in comparison to Seattle or San Diego, this track just lacks some spice. So it's an E for me. Round 15, we head over to Foxborough. Boys, I'm gonna keep it a stack with you. This track's clunky. It feels strange. Like, there's an entire rhythm section where doubling through is like the premier line. I don't know, man. I really want this track to be fun, and I really want to like this track, but it just feels like they've strayed so far away from our S tier Seattle track. With all that said, I am picking these tracks apart. It's still awesome. It's still fun. It's still one of the better designed tracks in the game, but it's just certainly not up to par with some of the other tracks in the list. This is my least favorite track of the series, so I have to give it an F. For round 16, we head back west because we hate privateers and we're on the Denver track. I was actually pleasantly surprised by this track, as most people don't like this track, or at least that's what I've heard in my streams that I have every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday right here on YouTube. Other than the finish line jump being like weirdly difficult, the track is super fun. It's a pretty simple layout, but it still offers some bigger lines for the more experienced riders. It doesn't have as many ruts or erosion on this track, but I'm assuming that's because the IRL track was blue grooved and a dusty mess. Denver gets a solid A from your boy. Our final track on the list, Salt Lake City. This is another track that doesn't have much of road or built-in ruts, but I'm assuming that's to mimic the IRL track. Salt Lake City is a really fun track, with the exception of the absolute juicer of a triple after the Supercross triple. The rhythms are all pretty straightforward, and the whoops are easy enough, but still challenging. I'm gonna have to give round 17, Salt Lake City, a B. Anyway, boys and girls, here's my S to F tier of the aerial tracks. Do you agree? Are you absolutely raging right now and typing in the comments as we speak about how wrong I am? Good. Defend your favorite track. Stand up for what you believe in. Let me know in the comments what you think. Did I get the list right? What did I get wrong? I love you. I'll see you in the next one.